Hi there, this is Gary Jenkins again. I'm speaking for Golden Nugget Nation. And one of the things that I've done recently is I've reread a book I really enjoy called The Four Agreements. Um, Don Miguel Ruiz is the author of the book. It's based upon Toltec wisdom. And what I want to do is I want to quickly provide you a bit of a summary from the book. You might enjoy that. There's four agreements, and the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Now, Don Miguel Ruiz explains the word impeccable means to be without sin. And he's using the biblical context of what that means, that word sin means. Now, I know there's a lot of weighted heaviness with that word, but the word biblically actually meant there's a goal and you missed it. You didn't make it. And so that was a sin. The Apostle Paul oftentimes is uh, reported to have said to have missed the mark. That's what a sin is. It's just to miss the mark, what you're aiming for. It's if you're hammering a nail and you miss the nail. You are looking forward to trying to make everything you do in alignment with who you are. And so when he says be impeccable with your word, he wants you to understand that words themselves have power. And all of you, if you think about it, people have said things to you that really hurt you because you believed them or you decided to believe them. He identifies the way people use words as the way people use black magic. And the only way to break black magic, in his opinion, is to tell the truth. And being impeccable with your word is to always tell truth. No deception, no defilement of what things are at. You are wanting to constantly advise people what is true. So what's really important is that you do as you say and say as you do. I don't know if you grew up in a household like I did. My mother was famous for saying, do as I say and not as I do. But Don Miguel and the Four Agreements is basically saying, do what you said you will do and only do what you say you will do. So if you do that, you will adopt a habit. And this is the hardest one to master. This is the hardest of the Four Agreements to master, is to be impeccable with your word. Because really, the world does not want people who are impeccable in their word. They want people to live in the gray, foggy, smoky areas where they kind of sort of tell. They kind of are living in this gray place so that they can say, but I mentioned that. If you hear politicians speaking, they're always talking in the gray area. But what people really appreciate is when people say, this is X, this is Y, and this is the answer. People who study things like mathematics, they really appreciate the simplicity of keeping everything to the truth. Now, the second agreement is don't take anything personally. If people say things to you, just let it wash off of you. That's their opinion. It only becomes your opinion when you believe it. It only becomes true if you believe whatever they say. And believe me, there are people who are trying to push your buttons, so they're going to say lots of things. I believe in many ways, in the last 5 years, I have heard the word, you're a racist, just to the point where I don't even hear that phrase anymore. I used to just get really uptight because I said, what, me? I'm racist, but I do those racist. I'm not a racist person. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I mean, I might look like a white man, but I live in I got Hopi blood in me. Come on, folks, don't mess with me. I mean, I've lived in two different cultures. I lived in two different worlds. How dare you say I'm racist? But what I found, it was a dog whistle. It was a trigger word. It was a word to get me upset so that they could win an argument, or so that they could make some kind of statement that I wouldn't counter with a fact or logic out of fear of being racist. And when I allowed that to happen, they had power over me. And when I finally came to the conclusion is they can say that, it doesn't make it true, and I'm not going to give them the power to make it true. I disagree with them. That's not the way it puts forward. I am not going to take anything that you say personally. Now, the third agreement that he talks about is something that is, don't make assumptions, because making assumptions is detrimental, and eventually your mind is going to see those assumptions as being reality. Because whenever you make an assumption that isn't true, it always leads to a problem. Now, you can make some assumptions out there in the world that might be truthful, and if you kind of accept them, then you're not really going to be hurt that bad. But don't accept anybody's assumption. You find the truth for yourself. That's the big deal there. Because a life living without making any assumptions will be a life that will transform you for the good, because you'll get what you want and you'll be completely open with others. So the goal here is to listen, to look, and listen without any judgment, because things are there to be clarified, and keep going for clarification until you know exactly what it is that is being meant and said. Salesmen love to leave you with a world of assumptions. They will, I love this phrase. I never really paid much attention to it until I came to the UK. But people will say, you may be fined for this. Well, that sounds really not too threatening, does it? But they will fine you every time. You will be fine, but they want to say you may be fine. It's an assumption. You may be fine. No, you'll be fined every time, because everybody needs money. And so they're going to take your money to fill their coffers. And so let's not have an assumption that it could be a may. It's most likely going to happen in that regards to you. Now, there's the fourth agreement. And the fourth agreement is to always do your best. And this is going back to that sin idea, okay? Because your best is going to change from one moment to the next moment. Your change this morning, your ability to do your very best this morning, especially if you're not a morning person, is going to be exceeded by your ability to do your best in the afternoon, when you may be the most alert, awake, and able to communicate and get things done. But you need to do your best, because it's changing from moment to moment. And it's an imperative on your part that in every situation, in every environment, in every circumstance, that you are doing your best. Because people who will not do the same are the ones who are going to find themselves not well, physically not well. Actually, they could be mentally not well, always trying to get around things. And you will notice that as you keep these four agreements, you will be stepping up into a world, a wonderful world, where you are ahead of everyone else. You will get that understanding that people respect you because they know what you're saying, and they agree 100% with everything that you have provided for them. So I would suggest that you go get the four agreements and read the book yourself. It's not a long read. It's a good book, though. It came out, I think, in like 1997. I think I picked it up when it first came out, about that time. And I may have read it at least annually several times. And I gotta tell you, I've probably bought 10, 15 books because I start talking to somebody and then I give them the book. I hope it improves their life. But my friends, the Four Agreements, it's really worth your time. Why don't you take some time and read it? Talk to you later. Thank you so much.